Now, the 2008 Olympics, for any sportsman or anyone, everyone loves the Olympics, and it's the pinnacle of sporting events. Sadly, it's been postponed till next year, and I'm sure a lot of athletes are having to reschedule their training plans and things like that. But your 2008, you maybe about 19 or 20 at that stage, around that time. Tell me what was it like uh, at the Olympics and at the Olympic Village and everything that goes in and around it.
Yeah, I think, well, firstly, like when I heard that the Tall Ferns had a really good chance of qualifying, it kind of made my decision to focus on basketball an easier one. There was no guarantee I was going to make the team, but I didn't want to have any regrets. And
Mm.
Australia had won the World Championships that year, which means New Zealand had a lot easier pathway to qualify. So I was like, I moved up to Christchurch to train with the Christchurch Sirens, who are a team in the Australian League.
Yeah.
And what didn't get paid, I didn't even have anywhere to stay. I just thought, I'm going to go do this and make sure I've done everything I can to get selected. I actually ended up moving in with Helen Watson, who was a current White Fern at the time. So she sort of gave me a room to go and train with the basketball girls, and then ended up getting to know the basketball girls quite well and lived there until the team was named for Beijing. And I just remember getting to the village, and like you hear lots of stories before you go,
Mm.
some non-sporting stories, and yeah, I
Yes.
was just remember being starstruck, just overwhelmed by the whole thing. And it was quite funny because none of the basketball girls had been before, so we'd go to the food hall, which is another story in itself. But we'd just try and spot the most famous people we could, and then sit next to them, and then we'd
Mm.
egg each other on to start a conversation. So generally, that was finding the basketball players that we all thought were the most famous people in the world.
And is it true that you met LeBron?
It is true. It's a story that I don't tell too often because I can't believe it happened myself, and sometimes
Please.
I'm like, yeah, well, that was the basketball went okay. We won one game. I actually probably played the best I played for New Zealand, which was exciting. But
Mm.
look, we were just stoked to be there. And anyway, at the end, some of the girls in the team had managed to make friends with the American security guards, so the Dream Team security guards. So we went to the final, USA versus Spain, and we were told that if we put on these Nike T-shirts, they would pick us up for the after party, and we had to cheer for America because everyone was cheering for Spain. So we were like, yeah, of course we'll do that.
Yeah.
Went back to the village, getting ready just for a general night out in the village, which is insane. But then one of the girls gets a phone call, and the American bus is outside the village waiting for us. And I was like, no way, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
And get out of the village, get escorted onto this bus. There's the dream team and every player, and then probably about 30 hand-picked females on the bus, and the New Zealand women's basketball team. So we got taken to this party. It was on this rooftop. We got put in a booth. There was David Beckham was there, and like it was just unreal. Like LeBron James actually was the nut. He went down the whole bus and introduced himself, and I couldn't speak. I was like shaking the whole time. Like,
Mm.
how is this even happening? So that was probably the highlight of my whole entire life.
Well, all right, we'll stop the podcast now. We're just going to go into this a bit more. No, we'll save it for another time, or maybe another occasion. But that is amazing. The closest I got to meeting NBA players was in a nightclub in Barcelona just before the 2012 Olympics, and I remember walking past the VIP section, and I looked in, and there was James Harden, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Deron Williams, and at one point Russell Westbrook came out of the VIP section, and I'd had a few waters by that point, and I remember he walked right past me, and I went, Russell, 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 oh, you're my favorite player, you're my favorite player, and I tried to high five him, and I was going for the high five, but he hadn't raised his hand, and I just ended up whacking him on the chest, and he kind of just gave me a dirty look, and
Uh,
and then just walked off, and I was like, oh, okay, well that didn't go well. Anyway, but I met him and then told everyone under the sun. And I think my Facebook status that night was, I just had the greatest night of my life, uh, which my brother will remind me a lot of the times about that status